Gundamaniacs, welcome to the Gundam Explained Show live. It is February 22nd, 2024. I'm your host, Adam Blue, and joining is the nicely bearded and mustachioed, what's something I can say that's not offensive but funny? I can't get canceled, but I won't make things awkward. No, I'm just making things awkward. Steven, how are you doing?
I'm doing well, thank you. It's tough when we're kind of on the fly. Sometimes I'm like, "Ooh, do I try to go with something rhyming like what? See, I can't even think of a word that rhymes with blue right now. I'm sweating. I'm like, "Oh my gosh, this is."
The
I've got the
sun,
studio lights on.
I know we're in
Everything's
different places, but the sun in Texas is heating everything up. It's making my
yeah,
room an oven. So I guess it's turning back around. We were complaining about the cold. Now we complain about the heat. But it's probably
exactly.
going to get cold again. That's usually how it goes,
Yeah,
right?
the winters have been a little longer lately. I feel like, it's not until maybe 6 weeks after the old groundhog sees his shadow that we
Yeah.
really start to get I would not be surprised if there's another snowfall, at least like in the northeast of the US. For
Even here.
those of you who are in the US, obviously, we're a US based show, but like
Oh, yeah. Well, no, even here in Texas, because it is funny how through my life, like ice and snow could randomly pop up in March or April for like a week.
it's wild.
It,
Yeah.
it's yeah, it's pretty crazy. So, yeah, weather. That's what to talk about.
Weather talk.
Yeah, no. We're gonna have a cool show today because I really want to jump in to talk about Gundam Breaker for a lot of reasons, a lot of different reasons. It has to do with me as a more recent Gundam fan, but me as a gamer, and then even looking at the landscape of the industry and seeing some of the choices they made with this Gundam Breaker 4 is pretty interesting, positive and negative.
Yeah, we
But
touched on
yeah.
some like initial thoughts and, first reactions yesterday,
Oh,
but
that's right.
I feel like we've gotten some new information today that might kind of
Okay.
recolor our perspective about.
And let me know if I don't bring it up when we're going through some of the stuff I found. But also,
No, no, that's great.
on your episode yesterday, we did that poll. Maybe I'll remember one, but it was the idea of it was like what makes a Gundam game, and I love that idea because I think it's different for everyone. And
Yeah.
it was interesting because wasn't it customizing was the top one?
Yeah, it's really
Yeah.
funny because I think that and I love honestly, I was kind of poking fun at the chat yesterday, but ultimately these question of the day, question of the week, I guess technically since we do these
Oh
weekly
yeah.
live streams, the question of the day really is an open-ended thing to kind of see where everyone's head is at as a Gundam fan, right? So it's interesting to me that Gundam fans and mecha game fans in general seem to like the idea of customization.
Yeah, whereas I feel like you and I come from a place where we're kind of gamers first. So when we get into a Gundam game, we're all more about the systems and mechanics rather than like customizing, even though we like that. That's just kind of secondary. Um, but yeah,
Yeah.
we'll get more into that here shortly. But since you reminded me, sort of the poll, I put up a poll. Are you buying Gundam Breaker 4? So
Ooh.
I'm curious to see what people say there. And yeah, if I try to answer my own one, it makes me sign in.
Oh, that's embarrassing.
Yeah, that
Yeah,
is.
honestly, if this is not 100% yes, I'm gonna be very disappointed in this chat because
I don't
let's
know.
be honest.
I
Why would you watch the
well,
Gundam Explained?
well,
Okay, no, I wanna hear your
yeah, real quick, because I think, and it's almost like what I'm going to talk about here in a little bit is how I feel
oh,
like
awesome.
it's it's a Gundam game, but I think this type of Gundam game kind of shows the divide of the fan base in a way. But I'll get to that in a second. But
Ooh.
the poll is up so far. There's no's, just so you know. Yeah, but
I'm
anyway,
gonna start getting in there and with every one of my Google accounts and spamming yeses.
but no, good to see Johnny Tacoma, Talos Mobius, Barry BB, Classic Quarter Gameplays. Yeah, good to see you guys. Yeah, check out the poll if you haven't. But so yeah, before we get into the main topic, if you guys checked it out or didn't or whatever, Monday I had a video go out where it's one of the supporter perks. So if you're a supporter, once a month I'll do a episode of Gundam Explain. That is our special what we call G Watch. It's like the supporter uh show. And it went out Monday with Ian and Ashley, and we just talked about seed lore because they're into seed more than I am. And I just wanted to like kind of talk about it. And it was kind of a fun discussion there. It reminds me of
That was
how much
great.
there is to learn about. It's because I'm all into UC, and then it's like, oh, I want to learn seed stuff. It's like, oh, there's all these things I have to remember. And also talking about it, especially with people like Ian and Ashley that really like seed, it kind of it would remind me of certain scenes I saw, and I was like, that was actually pretty fun. That was actually pretty fun. And so there's redeeming elements to seed for
Yeah,
sure.
I watched this month's G Watch, and I was blown away. I love Ian
Oh,
and
cool.
Ashley's takes on everything, and I really, in particular, loved the discussion about like the idea of cyber new types in Seed, and
Oh yeah.
because Stella and Shin are kind of like my favorite characters from Seed Destiny
Yeah,
because they are the Camille and Four of the Seed universe.
exactly.
So you know, while I understand that not everybody loves Gundam Seed, I think that there's definitely a debt of gratitude from Gundam fans that is owed to the Seed universe for really, m- I hate the idea of like, oh, for modern audiences type thing, but like modernizing the story of Gundam, right? Because you and I have talked about how political and like the manipulation that goes on in Seed Destiny that's
Oh
so
yeah.
cool to think about. Like, eh,
Yeah.
I don't know.
It's cool, and yeah, I think you bring up another good point because yeah, even though I'm not big on the seed and there's some things I dislike, there is this excitement when something new comes out, and when people like it, there's more people getting into it, and that's kind of we'll go into this Gundam Breaker discussion here in a second. And but yeah, other than that, on Wednesday I dropped the Robot Spirits Blue Destiny video. And it was interesting because I did like another iteration of how I do my videos. Originally I used to have the green screen type of thing, and then I stopped doing that, and then I had the table that I had set up in my office, and then the little
Yep.
overhead camera. And then I did it different this time where I'm standing and I'm talking sometimes, but I recorded that separately from me unboxing and looking at it. And then I just pieced the audio together, and I'm trying to figure out a way to streamline that to make it like give it a because there's something these are small tweaks, and I guess we're getting into the whatever you
Inside
call it, inside
baseball.
baseball, but
Yeah.
like when I'm watching a video, there's a lot of times I'm just listening. So maybe I don't notice this all the time, but when I'm watching it, if it doesn't have to have expensive looking perfect production value, but it needs to have clear and very warm, like as I'm along for this video, I want to feel warm. It doesn't need to have any crazy editing, not artistic, but I mean like editing done in a way where it might throw off your vibe for a second. Little things I've been trying to think about.
Yeah. And I watched yesterday's video, and I appreciated that. It reminded me of the video that you did on the Perfect Grade Unleashed Gundam that was like
Oh yeah, yeah, that was
you know,
another. Yeah,
yeah, I loved like sort of the tactile approach where you would kind of show your hands in the shots and things like that.
yeah,
Um, and honestly, like I said, there's not a lot of information, and I so the thing about like the Robot Spirits line is I think that it would be more popular if there were more content creators kind of shining a light on those things. And so it's one of the things
yeah,
that one of the reasons that we're friends, honestly, is that like I respect that you are one of the few people that's like shining a light on the Robot Spirits line because everyone knows Gunpla, everyone
yeah.
reviews Gunpla. We don't need another Gunpla YouTuber. Guilty. But but I think that the Robot Spirits line deserves some love and deserves some credit, and showing off the way that I think it's cool that the way the Blue Destiny can switch between the exam mode and standard mode. That's a lot easier than switching out the Gunpla, the like little
Model kit
green and
because
red headpiece.
you might have to dismantle what you have done, even though it comes with the other pieces. You still have to dismantle them to a
Yeah,
degree.
whereas this is
Yeah,
just a quick swap. Like
I know.
that's
Not only that, but I have the Madonna cosplay. Uh, no, but I just love because I happened to buy 2 Sharzaku 2s because one of them a piece went missing, and I couldn't handle it. Like every day, I'd think that Zaku 2 over there's missing a skirt. So one was on, it was on sale on Amazon, I think like December or something. And luckily, you get extra effect parts, so I was able to use the 2 here. So yeah,
Very cool.
this is the review that went up Wednesday, but next week will be the review of this one.
Now that is a kit I can get behind.
Yeah, this is really cool. And I also, what's funny is for this one, I also did the Gunpla where I went all out. I painted, I top coated. So I'm gonna also do the comparison. And that's like the interesting thing in that video when I compared my fully built and customized. But when I say customized, it's more of I did the panel line or detailed up. We should, my detailed up
That's
version,
a good way of putting it.
where it looked better on the surface than the robot spirits, but really it's because it's interesting how much the high grade is kind of its own thing. It even included, the high grade includes manga pieces along with the video game adaptation, but even then there's still certain, we talk about differences between certain things that are the same sometimes, and that's definitely the case here. But yeah, I think that's fun. That's a fun thing. I don't know how interesting it is to others, but for some reason I love comparing a detailed up model kit to a robot spirits. It's like, can I make a premium action figure? I don't know. It's
Maybe,
especially when it's a kit that doesn't have a robot spirits variant. That's why I got I have them back there. My Blue Destiny Efreet in the first place was, well, there's no robot spirits. I love those. So it's crazy that they're coming out with these in the robot spirits line. And like you were bringing up how there's not that many people that cover these figures online, and so I'm like surprised too, like that this line is popular. I guess it keeps going. They keep coming out with like newer ones, and they keep reiterating on the engineering to make them better and adding more effect pieces. And it's like, this must be successful.
Yeah, I mean, even what was it? Was it last month or was it in December that we were talking about the S Gundam and like the option parts for it, and how those were previously released as individual sets, but now they're coming out as well, I guess probably the pre-order's done now, but they came out as a 2-piece.
Yeah, which again, another thing, they keep re-releasing this stuff. Like the longer I've been as a new Gundam fan into the collecting and wanting things, I noticed that they do recycle the releases. They try to make it even to have other things come out, which is cool. Okay, so another thing, because I want to talk about some video game stuff. So I think I was talking on here for a while. Like I've been playing some Castlevania games. Symphony of the Night, like a month ago.
Dread.
What's that? Oh yeah,
Metroid Dread. Yeah.
So then I started Order of Ecclesia, and while I was playing that, I also started Metroid Dread because I was like, I don't know, I didn't want to. Since I'm playing Castlevania games back to back, I didn't want to burn myself out, but I wanted to play Castlevania. So like, the Metroid was the palate cleanser. But within my run of Order of Ecclesia, which is over 80 hours, I beat Metroid Dread in like 7 hours. And that was like one of the best, I guess, tests in a way to like really see what I like from a game. And for me, that Metroid Dread was like let's just remake the Super Nintendo one real quick on a small budget. And that's what it felt like. And a lot of times in the game, and I was actually talking to Autonomous about this the other day, actually. In the game, they have the Emmys. They're like the little, it's almost like they're mini bosses. So what the game does is it pads the timing by having these puzzle sections where you have to escape the Emmy. And then there's bosses where you just have to repeat until you remember their patterns so that you can get around them. So I realized I spent most of the time doing that stuff and not like exploring and being like, whoa, where am I? What is this place? Because even the level design was just polygons slapped together. This, like, it was like Planet Nefaria, Planet Zybon, Planet, it's like, or places. It's like none of this, there was no like contextual like feeling for me to be in this world.
Yeah,
it was just all arbitrary randomness.
I think people have talked about that in the realm of, like, filmmaking, in addition to game design and game development as well, is, like, when you look at, say, for instance, like the Witcher series on Netflix, like you really don't get a sense of where you are from the visuals. Like everything is kind of, and this is why the first season of The Witcher was so confusing for people, is there was like, wait, there's time skips going on, and like, wait,
Mm,
where are we? Why is this happening? Wait, is this part of this kingdom? But you compare that to, like, the first season of Game of Thrones, and it's like every time you are in King's Landing, you have this rich, warm light that's yellow, and, like, everyone's really bright and
mm,
everything's warmer. But when you go to, like, what is it? Winterfell? Winterhold?
yeah.
Winterhold, Skyrim, Winterfell is,
Uh,
is Game of Thrones.
that's a
But,
trivia
it's
question.
like it's blues and whites, and, like, everything's toned down, the saturation of the colors is reduced, and so you really get a visual cue of where you are based on the way that everything looks. And I think that video games need to do the same thing in a way where it's like you create these contexts of like, okay, I know I'm on planet Nefaria because of, these particular enemies that are around,
Yeah.
and these are the colors that I see and things like that.
Yeah, okay, so that's interesting because I wonder if the creators of The Witcher on Netflix, which I didn't watch because I'm not into Witcher or anything. I played the games, are pretty fun, but um I wonder how much they're in. I know like they say they're into the books, but I wonder how much, or yeah, it could be the books or the game where it's like the approach you take to it adaptation. Are they like, hey, let's throw in these sequences so like assuming people know the world and then they're just seeing the things to be like, oh yes, there's that. Whereas you get someone brand new into it, and they're gonna be
Mhm.
like, I can't really see the connection here. Kind of like the difference between like the Final Fantasy Rebirth or Final Fantasy 16, whatever the last one was.
There you go.
Yeah,
Yeah, for sure.
yeah.
I think that, well, and this is, man, we've got to get you on Lord of the Rings because you
Oh,
would appreciate this so
okay,
much. The fact that each of the sort of regions in Lord of the Rings have their own soundtrack and their own score associated with them. When you're in
okay.
the Shire and you have like this greenery and you're in the
Mm.
fields and plains, it's like, "Ba-da-lup, bup, 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 ba-da." But then, you get out to the fields of Rohan and everything's yellow because they grow a lot of wheat. They've got horses out there, and then you get the like dramatic ba 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 ba. So,
Hmm. Yeah,
I think
if
audio
you're
cues are
using
another great way of separating regions where it's like you can create an atmosphere using all five senses, I guess, except smell and taste, because it would be weird if you
you
licked your
never know
TV.
in the
But
future.
but yeah, I mean, I think that that's something that video games need to do a better job of,
Well, I'm glad you brought up the music thing in Lord of the Rings because I feel like that's what gets me. Like that's what's crazy. Like, do you ever just I don't know if this happens much anymore. You go randomly meet people or you like introduce someone, you have some light conversation, maybe it's a work meeting. And they go, what music do you listen to? Like,
soundtracks.
yeah,
That's
I feel like, well, if it's since August of last year, I listened to Castlevania. Like I was just looking like I literally just listened to Castlevania soundtracks all the time. And but I think that's important because that's part of the element of that world building. So you telling me Lord of the Rings actually keeps that in mind, which could have been a Peter Jackson thing. Like that's just what he knows how to do atmosphere. That's
yeah,
horror, he did Dead Alive, which I love, where it was goofy horror. He knew how to balance that tone. And Sam Raimi is another good example. He knows
yeah,
how to use
absolutely.
music. He knows how to balance tone. Yes, yeah, they need Sam Raimi to do more stuff. That just came. Yeah, I did you hear Gareth Edwards doing a Jurassic Park movie?
No, I didn't hear about that.
Yeah,
That sounds pretty cool.
to me that's perfect. Like, even though I feel at the end of the day, Gareth Edwards movies don't do the perfect job of like of tying up the character arc to be like, oh my gosh, that's amazing. It's usually just like, oh, okay, the characters went through the motions. He's more of like giving you a world. So
Yeah.
I'm ready for a Jurassic Park like that, and I can just think of the Godzilla 2014. If there's a Jurassic Park movie like the Godzilla movie, I think that'd be great. I
Yeah, I
think
mean,
of
it's just I guess where do you go with Jurassic Park?
And I'll tell
Because
you, I
you
was just about to say, because think of it. Think of a Jurassic World movie where there there's an attack of dinosaurs, but the film never sets a scene where we're seeing something happen to the dinosaurs. The film, it would be like the Dawn of the Dead remake, where it starts where the people are just doing their thing, and then all of a sudden, like, power's out, internet, some stuff's going on. People talk about animals escaping from the zoo, and slowly people start realizing there's, what are there, creatures or monsters? No, it's dinosaurs. And then by the end, the T-Rex is roaming like a downtown area or something.
Right, and by then it's too late, like, the damage has been done,
And I'd
kind of.
love that the conflict of the humans is the people just wanting to stop them, the dinosaurs, and then people that are like, "No, this is our responsibility. We need to capture them and take care of," like, and
Yeah,
I think that would be kind of a
conservationists.
cool, yeah, dynamic there. Um, but yeah, so wow, that was a great little rabbit hole we jumped down
Little
there for a little
segue.
minute. But no, just reeling it back though, I was just yeah, I beat yeah, Order of Ecclesia. Actually, just this morning I was having the hardest time with Dracula for about a week, and then I like maxed a whole bunch of these things. I grind that game's a grind fest. I grinded all this
Yeah,
stuff, and then I killed him without getting hit in like without moving actually. Because I just initiated my my specials because I maxed everything. I was like, there we go, Dracula, you're dead now.
suck it, Dracula.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that seems to be kind of a similar theme across Castlevania games, right? Is like the grind. Although there is like some neat features, like the whole, playing the castle inverted and things like that. But like aside from that, it really is grinding out until you're a
Yeah,
high enough
which
level that you can murk the bosses.
I feel like Symphony of the Night did it the best, although I'm replaying them to really figure it out. Order of Ecclesia was like super grindy. Well, the
Yeah,
game was teaching you to just play good, but if you wanted special weapons, you had to grind. Like that's kind of
gotcha.
like what it was going for, which was kind of a neat balance. And and then so I checked out the Grand Blue Fantasy Relink is the name of it. It's like an RPG. It, and I that like Grand Blue Fantasy, I guess, is a franchise. They have a few other games like 2D Fighter. And it's
Yeah,
interesting how it plays. It plays like I would say Bayonetta in a party system because you have multiple characters because it's really just like attack, attack, attack. The right triggers to dodge. So you're just like dodging attack. So it has a cool combat system. It is a bit grindy because there was a boss where I think it was yesterday morning, like before the kids went to school and I had started my work day. I was like trying to play the boss and my son was watching me and I was like, oh, do we have enough time? And I thought that was funny.
those are fun games though because it's like there are certain games that are designed to be difficult and make you feel like you're inferior and that you really accomplished something powerful, like a Souls game or like an Elden Ring type game. But then there are those kind of slash 'em up games that really just make you feel like a badass, and that's
Well,
sounds like
that's what brings us to the next topic. No, but
I
so
wasn't even trying with that one.
but you knew, no, I don't know. No, but Gundam Breaker 4. So that's the thing. So Gundam Breaker 4 was just announced Nintendo Direct yesterday. Which it's actually cool to see something like that in a Nintendo Direct. Like that's smart on Bandai's part to do that. But
Yeah,
so it's going to be on Switch, PlayStation, and PC, specifically Steam. So not Epic Store, not Xbox PC, and not Xbox. So a couple things. We're
mhm,
going to get into some different elements of this game, but the first thing I wanted to talk about was its release. I think it was a mistake not to release on Xbox, but one of my thoughts is it's because their plan is to release it on Game Pass. And now
yeah,
this I wouldn't even bet on that. I'm just guessing they would release it on Game Pass so they wouldn't announce it for sale because
right,
Bandai would want to make sure they can get their sold in units first like
exactly.
because they got the pre-orders or the
Yes,
special edition that's only Switch and PlayStation, not PC. So that's
exactly.
another weird element because we're like, okay, they're going all in on physical, but only Switch and PlayStation. And the other interesting thing about that is, a lot of times the way the industry works, if people haven't noticed by now, is usually people that cover the industry or people that are part of the industry have no idea what to do or what's going on. Like, really, so when people say,
It's
"Well,
true.
this is what this," it's like, no, we really don't know. I think that the best thing to look at is like monthly active usage. That's how I look at it. And
That's a very good, I think, indicator because, I mean, even
yeah,
compared to total sales doesn't really tell you how interested people were in the game because, it could have a really good trailer and you get a lot of pre-orders, and then once the game hits, nobody's playing it anymore. I think, in the chat earlier, Talos, our mutual friend, said that, there was someone who he shall not name who said that Gundam Breaker 4 looks bad,
well,
even though we haven't even seen enough to judge whether it's good or bad.
that's what's interesting because even when I looked at it, now this was based on the Switch trailer, but then they've
Mhm.
released like just general trailers. It doesn't seem to have the look on Gundam Breaker 3 and New Gundam Breaker, which seemed to add some sort of like soft bloom effect, like around the polygons that almost kind of gave more depth to it. Like the
Yeah,
lighting was also really well. This seemed to be missing that, and it could be because we were seeing Switch versions being showed, or it could just be because we're seeing this footage this way.
right.
You know,
Pre-alpha versions, like, who knows whether this is even close. This is just an announcement. I mean, we haven't
yeah,
even seen, like, a legit gameplay trailer. We've seen, like, some gameplay, but
yeah,
I would
and
not even consider that a gameplay trailer, what we've seen so far.
not even a release date, right?
No release date?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, and what's interesting is this game was actually supposed to come out last year. Now, I don't know that
Mm,
100%, but the
but
things
there
I've
was
heard made it sound
yeah,
like this was a game that was supposed to come out last year. It got pushed due to a lot of factors. Um, so
yeah,
that
there's a lot of moving parts.
yeah, exactly. That's why I think it's interesting. Physical release, Switch and PlayStation. Not only physical release, but a special edition that comes with, or collector's edition that comes with a Gunpla that actually looks pretty cool. It's this Gun Barrel Strike Gundam, and I say it looks cool because it like gives off like a '90s vibe.
Yeah, I saw someone on Twitter say that it looked like one of those '90s cups with,
Yeah,
like, the purple and pink swirl on it.
or the
That's
background of the photos the people would take or something like that. Yeah,
exactly right. Yeah,
yeah. In digital soundtrack, to me, that's really cool because a lot of times I'll play a Gundam game and the music's really good. It's like, oh, how can I get this music somehow, to listen to if it's not on Spotify or YouTube? Um, yeah, Steelbook. Um, Now it says it comes with the game, but I'm curious if that's really the game or a download. I want to find out when that when it comes out. Actually, um,
yeah, that's one of the kind of disappointing things about physical media nowadays, and we talked about this yesterday, as you mentioned that, like, most of these discs that you get don't actually contain any game data on them, which is
right?
unfortunate, and you can understand why. Like,
Yeah,
it's nice that you can obviously get the most up-to-date version of the software even if you're using an outdated version of the disk, but personally, like, sometimes you want the outdated version of the software. Like, if there's bugs or
yeah,
something in there that you like, I
exactly. That's what's cool too. And like I've gotten to a point in my life where I don't fear not being able to ever play a certain game I want a certain way, just because my youngest was able to figure out how to play any season of Fortnite online with people and with any skin. And it's like, so if you want access to the content, there's ways to do it.
yeah,
It's so, and I forgot to mention something going back with the Xbox thing. The reason I brought up that active monthly users is because technically active monthly users on Xbox platforms is higher than PlayStation. A lot of that
mhm,
has to do with PC, but it's also because there's a difference between people that buy a console and people that are actually playing, again. And so therefore I think
exactly.
that's like a better metric to use. And that's why I'm disappointed that Bandai isn't putting, if they're not doing the strategy to make it on Game Pass later, and that's why they're not announcing it. I'm disappointed they didn't put it on Xbox because there's people asked for Gundam games on Xbox. And we've
Yeah,
got SD Gundam
that's
Battle Alliance.
and I think
Yeah.
this is one of those things where, and Talos in chat is being very diplomatic. I will be less diplomatic. So there are certain people who think that the decision to use the Unreal Engine for Gundam games going forward is a mistake, or maybe it is indicative of the quality of the game that's being put out. So, like for instance, Ollie Barter of Forbes pointed out that Gundam Breaker 4 is going to be using Unreal Engine the way that new Gundam Breaker did, and therefore, because it's the same development team, because it's the same engine, it's going to be a bad game. I disagree with that for a number of reasons, because obviously we've seen games from the Unreal Engine that are Gundam games that were fun. I mean, Battle Alliance was amazing.
Yeah.
Like, now, would that game have been received differently if it weren't SD? Maybe, probably. I think you and I have kind of made that point, beat that horse
Yeah.
well into the
Yeah.
ground.
I know.
But one of the things that's amazing about Unreal Engine and Unity and those sort of like open source engines that you can develop games on is that porting them becomes much more easy than when you are working with proprietary software and you're working in systems that don't play well with other systems. And so one of the things that, like you said, your theory about it coming out on Game Pass makes a lot of sense to me, because A, it would be easy to port to Xbox just by the nature of Unreal Engine, and B, that we've talked about this in the past, is Gundam games typically fall under that double A category.
Right.
And so
Yep.
Microsoft knows that a Gundam game is not going to sell very high in pre-orders, but their Game Pass audience would probably play it. And so I'm sure that Bandai Namco would more than likely have a clause in any licensing agreement where it's like, if we're going to come out on your platforms, we need to make sure that we get the pre-order sales first, and then you can release it on Game Pass. And
Yeah. No, that's yeah. So yeah, that makes me think. What if Microsoft? What if it was Microsoft? That's like, yeah, we're not going to really pay to have this on Game Pass. Yeah,
yeah,
that's a really good point. And something else I want to bring up, because Andreas was saying PS5 still give you the game on disc, unlike Xbox. But I think what's happening is the disc. A lot of cases, the disc is the signifier to the server that then it can start downloading the data.
yeah.
I think it really, some of it has to do to the size, because some games, like I think Jedi Survivor, they're like too big for discs or something, and so it has to be a download. I think
It's
Modern
definitely a
Warfare
case by case basis.
case by
Like,
case, yeah, and I think it's just going that direction because the disc format. What other media uses the disc format regularly? It's everything else is pretty much gone. It's just games, but it's just because that right now that's the I guess the easiest way to secure a game, but you can't really anymore.
hey,
Yeah,
God bless Nintendo for sticking with cartridges.
I know,
Like,
I know.
I well, and I think you can do more fun things with cartridges. Like, I think I just saw a YouTube video the other day. Someone converted a Breath of the Wild cartridge into an LED light up Master Sword. Now it's totally impractical because it's like you're playing it on the Switch and you've got
Yeah,
this Master Sword sticking out of the side of it. But like, that's cool stuff that you
yeah,
can't do with a disc.
yeah. No, that's a good point, and I like the cartridge format. I think the rumors are even for the Switch too. It's also still going to use cartridges. Like I.
Yeah.
Like I wonder if we would see games try to support another format before becoming completely digital. Like, is there some other practical, physical? I don't know. It's very interesting. Um,
Mhm.
but kind of going back to this, there's also for the Gundam Breaker, it has like the early unlock. So recirculation color plus 6 builder parts. So I guess if you've pre-ordered it early, you get some stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, showing it
Nothing
right
from
here, which
Zeta, which I was very disappointed to hear.
what
Like,
just say what?
nothing from Zeta.
Oh, that's part of the
Yeah,
yeah, yeah.
none of the pre-order bonuses. I think you get like a double Zeta full armor. There's like a Victory Gundam thrown in there, I think.
Oh,
Some
yeah,
parts for the Victory Gundam. But yeah, no
but
Zeta.
no Zeta. Yeah, that is a bit
Mm.
strange.
Mm-mm-mm.
Interesting. Yeah, I don't get it, and to be honest, I can fully, I guess, assume Bandai is making mistakes just by looking at Gundam Evolution. Like, I mean, like, I could be here right now and say, "This idea is a mistake," and be potentially right.
Yeah, I mean, well, that would make you a Twitter user, I think.
There you go.
It's
Um,
Bandai is obviously screwing up because they're doing X, Y, and Z. It's like, I don't know. I can't help but feel that, even just the fact that we're getting Gundam Breaker 4 and not New Gundam Breaker 2 indicates to me that Bandai knows what they're doing.
exactly. There's a degree of like a degree where they know like what to listen to. It, and something that's really cool too is that it comes with the season pass, which if I look at like previous Gundam games that it comes to DLC, I think they're pretty good with it. Like SD Gundam Battle Alliance really came out with a bunch of stuff. It came out with just some random maps, and then it came out with like grind maps for the purpose, like with G Generation
Yeah,
Genesis. It came out with the Haro map, so you can just grind. So I appreciate
exactly.
their DLC.
Now, this is interesting though. They have a season pass for story mission DLC. So this is one of the things that you and I kind of speculated on just in private is like, what is the story of Gundam Breaker 4 going to be?
Yeah, all I know about Gundam Breaker is I press start to skip on Gundam Breaker 3, and then the mobile game, like, you had to sit through these anime people talking to each other, which
Now, which anime waifu did you choose? Because you do have to make those decisions between what is it like Rin and to me Rin was the obvious choice.
wow,
So
you're doing great. I don't even remember I had a choice. It was probably a brunette,
yeah,
knowing
probably brunette. Yeah,
knowing
it's
how I am, but I,
I look for the weird hair colors because those are usually the cyber new types. So
oh, yeah, yeah, or they'll have some sort of, like, trauma that, comes about in the show or some arc. Yeah, um, no, but yeah, though that's interesting. I think I'm gonna take that more seriously, at first. Like, I will like, SD Gun and Battle Alliance, I did just skip all the story. Like, I had to, like, press the button when you see, like, the girls talking to Haro, and it's like, "Da, da, 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 da," and
well, it's so interesting because there are dialogue choices where it's like, okay, well, maybe this is a failing of most Gundam video games is that the dialogue choices really don't impact the gameplay whatsoever.
yeah.
I think the only Gundam games where your dialogue choices matter are the Gundam Dynasty Warriors games. Like
Oh, yeah,
in
that's right.
Gundam Dynasty Warriors 2, you had like friendship meters with particular characters, and like that was how you would unlock like being a cyber new type.
Yeah, so that'd be interesting if something like that happens in here, which I'm hopeful that because I've played a degree of 3, Gonna Break a 3, and it's
Mhm.
okay. It could have just been like it's too late. I'm already into more modern games. That's a grindy game. Um, the another thing is this diorama thing going on because they're gonna have that photo mode, which I think is a good idea. Where whatever you make, you have this like place where you can like set it up with other things and take some
Yeah.
pictures. I think that's
Well,
kind of like
and
a precursor to what could be.
let's be honest, the core gameplay loop of a Gundam Breaker game is building your Gunpla and then taking cute pictures of it.
Yeah.
Like
Okay.
the gameplay, like and you and I have had this conversation, and we're probably gonna get, crucified for it, but it's like the gameplay in Gundam Breaker games is really never
Exactly. I'm glad you brought it up because that's kind of where I am with my clickbaity title of this, where I was like, "The new Gundam Breaker 4," but I don't care, and I put "don't," like, because the idea is I don't think if I liked Gundam, but I wasn't, yeah, I don't know. I think I would be curious, but I already know what the combat is like, and it's not my type of thing because on one hand, it's more on the grindier side, which that's a cool YouTube and chill type of game where you could just listen to podcasts and just grind. So there's that.
sure. Yeah.
Um, but it's the grind and the actual mechanics. So the system it uses to do combat, it's from what I remember from 3, it's you have your various attacks that you can use. You can use them in sequences or combos, but they're combo light. And then
Yeah.
you also have your like specials that recharge and then you use. So it's more of a round robin of okay, this attack, this attack, this attack,
Like a
and
Dynasty Warriors game,
yeah, and just
you're just
exactly.
mashing X//// heavy attack, special slash
And
slash
and
slash heavy
sometimes
attack special.
and then sometimes it's like, "Oh, I gotta dodge," or, "I gotta use this attack specifically." Like, there's those occasions. Um, yeah, because
Yeah,
playing 3 I played 3 again not too long ago, and I just remember it was grinding away at a boss, and it was and
yeah,
it reminds me of the Grand Blue Fantasy Relink, and I think that's just a property of a lot of Japanese action games where they are grindy, or I'm saying grindy from the perspective of a Westerner that plays video games, but in Japan, it could be like it's just that's for Japanese gamers, that's just the method of a lot of hitting, I guess. I don't know.
yeah. Because I think, if you go back to sort of the early days of gaming, the way of extending gameplay was to either make it more difficult so that kids would keep cranking quarters into the machine, and that obviously makes more money for the game, or you create a gameplay loop that makes you want to replay the same content over and over again. And that's really what Gundam Breaker does. Is it's like, well, if I need to farm parts, I know that I need to go to this mission, I need to keep playing this mission over and over. And
Have you heard if there's multiplayer?
I haven't.
Because I think uh, and I want to say maybe 3 might have had a component of multiplayer. I think maybe someone in
I
the
thought it
chat might be
did.
able to, and maybe that's where the fun is. I haven't
Yeah,
really thought about that. So maybe once a bunch of us have it, we jump in, play. Oh yeah, Alter's saying, yep. And
there you go.
Talos is backing that up with 3 people co-op. So that's actually cool. I wonder if that kind of changes things, especially when it's a game that you don't I don't know, because I've been playing Helldivers even with Talos a lot lately, and it's
Yeah.
like we don't really have time to chat about other stuff. It's like, yeah, but I think a Gundam Breaker 4 is gonna be a game where you will have time to chat, and that might be a fun part of it. Like, "Oh, look, we're going
Yeah.
up against the Devil Gundam. Oh, look, I got this part,"
It's like a little party game type
Yeah,
deal, I think, for sure. Because the difference between, say, that and 0081, which also has 3-player multiplayer, I don't think that we had a lot of time to chat while we were playing that, and, we're
yeah,
like, "Oh my god, these," we're trying to defend these Samson trucks
yeah.
from these Zakus, and it's like
That's that's interesting, and that's one again where I go back to my feeling with Gundam Breaker 4 is it's not my type of game, but because it's Gundam and it's decent, it's like it's not bad. I
Yeah.
will have fun playing it, but that's not what I wanted out of a Gundam game. And this kind of goes back to your poll yesterday, where I'm not in it for the customizing. I want to feel like I am operating a giant mech and I'm in a war. You know,
Right.
that's kind of what I want from it. But
But this goes back to sort of the conversation that we've had with New Type Seiji, and our mutual friend Shirtlad actually dropped a video recently, kind of discussing
mm,
all of the previous Gundam games that never got a Western port, and just the nature of when people say that there's like not enough Gundam games out there, there really are,
yeah,
if you are willing to look for them and you're willing to kind of get outside your comfort zone. And so, even though Gundam Breaker 4 is not something that you or I personally are about, we're both going to play it. And I know personally at least 100 people that wanted this game,
yeah,
because I think countless polls have been like, I either want Gundam Breaker 3 remastered or a Gundam Breaker 4. Get away from New Gundam Breaker, obviously,
yeah,
but like there is a large audience that is already committed to this game,
yeah.
regardless of you and I having negative opinions about it.
Exactly. Which again is I think is good. It's good for the brand. Even Andreas is bringing it up. Gundam Breaker is a Gunpla game, not really a Gundam game. I like that. I like that's really
Well,
good.
that goes into what you were suggesting earlier, that there really are, well, there's a lot of different kinds of Gundam fans, but you really can
Yeah.
cut the Gundam fandom in half, right?
Yep. Yeah. It's either you're in for the world or you like to build. Like I think that's kind of what it is. And I love the world, so I love watching the shows, listening to the music, playing the games. But a game like Gundam Breaker is not putting me in the Gundam world. But like I did with Gundam Breaker 3, I went and did everything I could to get a badass Mark II. Like that, I didn't play too far into it, so it was like the earliest cool suit I liked to get all
Yeah.
the parts for. But I got to do
Well,
what
it's funny.
you talked
It
about.
Oh,
Remember
go ahead.
all the different thin funnels or whatever that you had?
Oh, yeah, I mean, like, I created a lot of different, builds that I thought were cool, but were not, like, optimized for the game. So, obviously, I had, like, a bunch of different Zeta variants. I had a purple Zaku that had Zazabee's funnels, but ultimately, I would just cruise through the game with Kshatriya wings and Zazabee funnels and, like, a couple of those, like, little modular machine guns, and it was just like, you know, that's part of what I mean when I say that the gameplay isn't particularly exciting with Gundam Breaker titles, is that you can really cheese it if you wanted to. At that point, Gundam Breaker Mobile was actually kind of cool. The fact that you had an auto mode, it's like if you just did the build right, you could just skip through anything.
Yeah, no, yeah, that's yeah, some good points. I am gonna be interested to know what this release date is because there's other like I'm curious about what the summer Gundam movie or show release is gonna be, if that's gonna happen, or they're just gonna wait to the fall for Requiem
Requiem,
for Vengeance. Yeah.
yeah,
So
which
and I wonder,
also being produced in Unreal Engine. So
yeah.
I think it would be
Oh,
very cool if in
DLC.
Gundam Breaker 4 you get parts to the Gundam and to the Zaku from
Yeah. Oh,
because
they're
I mean
gonna do
they've
that.
already got the 3D models.
See, that is the right thing to do. I bet they're going to do it. And that's what will make it exciting for me because this will be my opportunity and maybe for others too. Like, oh, this is a way I can get a good look at it and maybe use it in battle. Then people can start talking online about, well, this is this powerful because in Gundam Breaker 4, you can use the mag. I don't know. I'm just.
I don't like that this Gundam has red eyes and it's too white. It doesn't look right. It's
Yeah.
oh jeez.
But okay. And then, real quick on that subject, and I don't know if anyone in chat happens to know if any of this so we had the Seed movie come out in January. Requiem for Vengeance is this fall. Anything else? I think there's the VR because it's a VR show or movie. That's the thing. It's not like a game. Uh and so then I would think Gundam Breaker 4 would be a summer release.
Yeah, because we haven't heard anything about Hathaway 2.
Yeah, exactly. And I thought that would be a summer release, but it, and so here's what I would think like they would then release whatever if a movie would come out this summer. And I would guess because I think this happened with SD Gun and Battle Alliance. They announced the game and then later they announced it coming out in August. So I that might be what they're going to do here. And then I would hope then coinciding with the release date announcement is Hathaway 2 DLC or Requiem for Vengeance DLC with the Requiem for Vengeance date. If they want to synergize,
Yeah.
you know, that would be the way to do it.
Exactly, and that's one of the I think, if you and I offer any critique of the way that Bandai Namco kinda goes about the way that they manage their various properties is that they really don't have that synergistic approach between the gaming content, the film content, the Gunpla. It's like, you have like 8th MS Team Robot Spirits coming out when Witch from Mercury is airing. And like, I think that one of the things that, going back to a topic from a couple of live streams ago when we were talking about live service games, the Avengers game was very good about tying in to whatever was currently on Disney Plus. And
Oh
it's
yeah.
like, oh, Shang-Chi just came out on Disney Plus, so here, Shang-Chi skin or whatever. Uh, if if Bandai were to start doing that more effectively with Gundam, I think they got into it a little bit when they dropped the GM Gather Road
Yeah.
in GBO2.
Mhm.
But Gundam Breaker 4, I think, provides a better base for that because obviously it's not tied to UC the way that GBO2 is. So you can throw in things from different universes. If they do drop a dubbed version of the Seed Freedom movie, you can drop those mobile suits into Gundam Breaker 4 and like have these kind of coordinated marketing
Almost
crossovers.
yeah, you bring up a good idea. Almost making Gundam Breaker 4 like the current hub of when you want to get into Gundam interactively, you would go into here and that I mean that explains why mobile was shut down,
Yep.
because the this game. Um something funny Alter's saying is, yo, can we get a full episode of Adam and Steven doing the geek voices for the full hour? And I I think that's hilarious. I love acting like that. But what's funny is Alter does an excellent George Costanza. And like, if we were to do this, we would need the George Costanza there to kind of help bring the
Yeah.
chaos.
No, see, what you need to do is you need to super chat in what you want Adam and I to say, and then specify what voice you want us to say it in, and then we can't say no because
It's a super shame. That's actually pretty good. Yeah, I gotta do the voices more.
we
I
live in a colony, Jeremy. I said,
That-
why did I say Jeremy instead of Jerry?
Oh, it sounded like Jerry, so good on you.
Oh,
No, but
there we go.
no, the voice acting stuff is so funny. I sometimes like daydream that I'm voice acting because it seems like such a fun way to act, but you don't have to worry about what your face looks like. You know, 'cause
Yeah.
when I'm doing like my Batman impressions, I have to contort my face in such a way to allow just that little amount of air to have that deep low.
And I appreciate seeing when voice actors, like when you see them in the booth, and it's like Mark Hamill obviously did a great job of like, getting over the top with his Joker
Oh, I love that. I
in the
love
Batman
doing Joker also. I'll have to do it someday. I love it because Joker, and here's what's crazy. For me, Joker and Pee-wee, the Mark Hamill Joker and the Pee-wee Herman do the same thing, where they totally elevate, like where they talk kind of normal, and then they do it really high, and then they bring it like. And I learned how to do Joker by trying to do Pee-wee Herman.
by imitating Pee-wee.
Because it's almost like you're having to at will like open and close your throat a certain way to get those higher pitch or the lower. Yeah,
That's true. I mean,
fun.
but I have a hard time imagining like the Joker saying to Batman something like, you know, let's guess what today's secret word is today, Batman. Scream real loud.
but it would totally work. You would have an episode where like what Batman steals a Joker's bike because maybe it's a weapon of mass destruction, but Joker's just like, I want my bike back, and he's all, oh, I'll get you, Batman, and then he's going through the whole thing.
Joker, there's no basement at the Alamo.
I got to practice these voices more because that could turn these podcasts into hilarious sound bites. I'm gonna have to get sound bites out of this.
I mean, that would just make the show ridiculous at that point. We wouldn't even be talking about Gundam anymore. It would just be a series of goofy impressions.
Which almost seems like it happens because the Gundam news is sometimes light, even though this Gundam Breaker 4 news was something. It was like the something to talk about.
And it was wild because I think you had like a solid 4 to 6 hours of everyone was super excited about Gundam Breaker 4, and then Ollie Barter wrote his piece in Forbes, and then I got like nothing but notifications in my Discord about people complaining about it, like it's not Kieran's greed, and I'm like, well, what?
So you're saying, because we were talking about this earlier, are you saying it's because almost like with someone that has a wide following, when something is put out there on the internet, sometimes people will then just group think accepting it? And then
Sometimes,
they're like,
I think that it goes both ways. It's like you have people that are groupthink accepting it and enthusiastic about it, and then there's people that are groupthink hating on it without any reason to. It's like,
no. Well, I meant groupthink accepting what someone is saying.
oh yeah,
because Ali Barter's is that one where when it comes to mecha, Japanese pop culture, especially around mecha. I mean, and he's right about stuff like his favorite animes that Blue Lasner, I forget the actual name of it, and I watched some of it, and it's actually great. Like, oh, here we go.
Oh, shout out to Classic Quarter Gameplays.
Yeah. Okay, let's see. Can you do Garen Ran GX voice? Hello, Rock On Double X is always my fave, and MS08 always breakers are sweet. Like to see a game on. Oh yeah, MS08 MS team or After War, like Gundam X. Is that what he's talking about as a game?
Yeah.
Okay.
Now,
what's
I
Garen?
don't know Garrett Rand's voice in the GX.
Oh, Garrett from
Gundam X.
Okay, let me watch that again, and I could probably come up with something.
Yeah.
Okay. Thanks, Classic Quarter Gameplays. I owe you. I am going to come back next week. The entire show is going to be me as Garrett. No, that
You
I don't
bet
think
you
so.
better. Well, it's interesting because a lot of people talk about, like, the voice of particular characters, like in, Double Zeta. You don't really have a canon voice in English of Judo Ashta,
Yeah.
but I will say that the voice in I don't remember. Well, I would say that the voice in Dynasty Warriors Gundam is probably the canon, Judo Ashta voice.
Okay, I see what you're saying. I remember you were telling me about that. Like, that's the only place that they really got an English, like a real canon English.
Well, he's also in Gundam versus Zeta Gundam. Spoiler alert.
Oh. Well, you know what I tend to do, especially when it's like Japanese, and Ian, Armad Ian, he's good at this too. But it's like you can take tonally what they're saying in Japanese and still do it. So I'm gonna try to do that with Garrett.
Garrett Ran.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he's real good with Ian is good at what's the guy from 08 MS team? Shiro. Shiro
Oh,
Mata.
sure.
Yeah, he
Yeah.
does a good Shiro Mata. Well, okay, you know what? Yeah, that's about it. Yeah, stay tuned for next week where I try to sound like Garrett. So that
Yeah,
should go
cheers.
well.
Thank you, Classic Quarter Gameplays.
Yeah, no, that's gonna be fun. That gives me an assignment. But yeah,
Yep,
thanks
you got
for
homework
everyone
this
that
weekend.
joined. Steven, anything we missed? Anything we didn't cover?
No, no, today was a fun, you know.
Yeah, it was fun. We're talking games, a little bit of movie talk in there. That's how it goes. But everyone, thanks for all that joined. Have a good weekend, and we'll talk later.